Welcome back to the show today. As it stands today, 30 years from now, my real estate current portfolio, if I didn't buy another asset, would be worth around $20 million. Well, I have 4 kids, so if we took that $20 million divided by 4, that means each of them would receive around $5 million worth of assets. I am very, very proud of that. It also scares me a little bit too, because I think the statistics say that most wealth is lost in the first generation, like 70%, and the generation after that, over 90% of wealth is lost. I believe that is strictly a financial education problem. We've got such this taboo feeling around money in our society that we won't talk about it, that parents go all these years raising children and never talk about one of the most important topics on the face of the earth, because we have to have money to live, to survive, to create financial and time freedom. But most kids don't get that from their parents. They have to get it from a book. If they get interested when they get older, they have to join a community. They have to listen to podcasts. And that's not really good, because most people don't even do that. And so it leaves the majority of people who have no clue about money. Well, when you have those folks who are second generation, who have no clue about money, who then inherit a pretty darn hefty amount, whether it be 5 million, 10 million, 20, 30, 40, how are they supposed to steward that? They've had no opportunity up until that point to steward anything. And so the only logical answer for what's going to happen is the empire, quote unquote, is going to collapse. And so I want to share with you guys 3 things that we have done to not only set our kids up for success, but also how we're going to be able to preserve that wealth for generations to come without allowing it to cause issues, without allowing it to cause ruffles. And hopefully, we won't be here to see it in person, but it will pass down generations because of the things that my wife and I, put in place today with our family that we hope they carry down the line. So first thing that we did is we built wealth, and we are continuing to build wealth. We're only 32 years old. And so if you don't go and build wealth, then you're not going to have any wealth to pass down. And I would tell you, trying to navigate how to pass down wealth is a good problem to have. I think it's a problem that you want. I would rather do that than be broke, not be able to choose what my days look like, and then have nothing to leave my children. Even biblically, it says leave money for your children's children. And so we are in a position to be able to do that. We want to do that. We want to do it the right way. But how did we do that? How did we start? Well, before our children were ever born, we started buying real estate. Our strategy is we would go and buy ugly single family homes, 3-bed, 1-bath, 3-bed, 2-bath. We would fix them up, and then we would rent them out or flip them. At the beginning, we rented a lot of them out. We built our strong portfolio, because those of you who are listening who don't know, rentals is where wealth comes from. Flips is just where you make more income. And so we've had a lot of income over the years, so we haven't really needed to flip. And so we just stacked rentals on top of rentals on top of rentals on top of rentals. And now we have a portfolio worth over $5 million today because of that. And there's a lot of hard work that goes into it. There's a lot of things you got to learn. We mostly buy using other people's money. So we learned how to raise capital. We learned how to manage rehabs. We learned how to manage properties and partner with property management companies. We took our licks along the way. We've made a lot of mistakes. But at the end of the day, we're worth $5 million more today than we were 6-7 years ago. And so if I was listening to this and I haven't really started on my journey to building wealth, or maybe I've kind of dabbled in it, but I'm not all in, I want to encourage you, let this be your sign to go all in. Go all in, start buying real estate, start building that portfolio. This is an asset that isn't speculative. If you look since the beginning of time, it's been making people wealthy. If you buy it and hold it, you look at a graph, over time, it goes up while tenants pay down your debt, and you build this extreme wealth in what's called equity. And then you start getting cherry on top, such as cash flow that comes in monthly, which that's not even factored into the number that I mentioned earlier with what my kids will be getting. I was speaking strictly equity, but we've got cash flow coming. Then we've got tax benefits. We've got so many different things that go into this equation. This asset is proven. It's been proven since the beginning of time. And so you're able to go into something that 90% of millionaires own. It's been making people wealthy since the beginning of time. Now all you have to do is figure out how to do it. And it's not a secret. There are millions upon millions upon millions, maybe billions if you look over the history of the earth, of people who have done this, and it's completely changed their lives. We're not talking about crypto. That's something speculative, NFTs. We're not talking about starting a business. Most startups fail within 5 years. We're talking about buying hard assets that hedge against inflation, that make people wealthy, give you tax benefits. They're going to set yourself and your family up for huge success. So that's step number one, is we went all in and we had 2 properties that we bought our first year buying real estate. And then the next year we bought 19. So we had 21 properties in about a year and a half. And then we just kept buying and buying and buying and buying. You may say, well, dude, that's a lot. That's a lot to scale. Yeah. And you don't have to scale that fast. We did, because we cracked the code. I figured out how to do it. And so once I know how to do something, it's time to go all in. You may say, hey, I don't want to go at that pace. That's fine too. The whole point is buy 2, 3, 4, 5 rentals a year. Let those things start stacking up. Dude, you don't even have to buy that many if you start now, depending on your age. Let those sit, and you have created an unbelievably wealthy family tree that didn't exist 5 years before. And that is something we did that has now given us this crazy, amazing life that we could have never dreamed of, ever. I mean, I always was striving for more, striving for freedom, striving to build wealth, but I can't explain what it's like when you actually get there. It's amazing, and it's not a myth. I've been at that place where it's like, oh, is it kind of a myth? Can it ever really happen? It can, and it's really, really, really cool. So that's the first thing we did, is we set ourselves up, which ultimately are setting our children up, grandchildren up, great-grandchildren, and down the line. The second thing we are doing, so we've built wealth, number one. Number two is we are including our children in everything we do. If you ever watch any of my YouTube videos, Instagram videos, or if you ever were just with me in real life on the reg, my family is very involved in our real estate and in our businesses. So I sit down with them, whether we're at the house or whether it's while we're riding on the road or whether we're actually at a property, and I teach them what we are doing. I tell them, hey, we go and buy these ugly, distressed properties. We make them nice. And then we do 2 things. We either, number one, rent it out to someone who can't yet buy for whatever reason. The system's not allowing them to buy, and there's millions of people who need to rent, so we give them good quality housing. Or number 2, depending on how the deal needs to be structured, we may flip it and sell it for a profit, usually as a starter home to somebody who's trying to buy their first home, and they want good quality housing that's been fixed up correctly. The bones are taken care of. The structures are taken care of. Water, heat, all that good stuff. And they're able to walk right in and buy a great house to get them started in the home buying process. I tell them how much we bought it for. I tell them how much we're doing in rehab. We take them over there while contractors are working. They see them doing the work. They're running around in the houses while just subfloors down, while drywall's not up. They've seen gutted houses. They've seen them go from nothing all the way to finish. So I inundate them in that world of real estate that we are doing all the time. And then I teach them just principles of investing in general. It's no secret that if you're going to be successful in real estate investing, you have to be able to fund your deals. Whether you're doing the Burr method or whether you're fixing and flipping properties for a profit, you got to be able to get to the closing table with money, and you got to have money to rehab the property. And so I personally use backflip capital when I need money to get to the closing table and to rehab my properties. I'm in the middle of a flip right now, and I partner with Backflip. It has been the smoothest process of all time. I literally went on their app, applied for the loan. You get pre-approved in less than 48 hours. You can lock in funding in just a few seconds with the touch of a button. Funding takes less than 2 weeks. Hello, that gives you an advantage when you're making offers on properties. And I can't say enough about partnering with Backflip Capital. They're great folks with a fantastic product that everybody listening to this should check out for the next time you go to do a Burr deal or fix and flip property. So here's what I want you to do. Go down to the show notes of this show. I've put a link for Backflip Capital in those notes. All you have to do is click the link so that you can download their app and get your next deal funded with Backflip. So for example, our kids get these little checks for jobs they do, and they get paid and they get money. And so then they can decide what they want to do with that money. And we let them decide, so they can go and they can buy something. Maybe they want to go to Brewster's and get ice cream. They want to go to Walmart, Target, or get a toy. Or I give them the option to invest. I have a piggy bank literally sitting right across from me from my oldest, Bo, who has all this money. I don't even know what's in there, maybe 90, $100. And I said, hey, I can take you to the store, or if you want to invest, you can give it to me and I'll go invest it. And now my investing is, it just sits in my office for about 2 weeks to a month. And then I'll put a return, 20, 30% return. They get great returns. They get huge returns. I mean, I'm the best investment in the world for my kids. I probably need to tone down the returns a little bit because they're not going to be getting those in real life. But I teach them, hey, if you give me money to invest, then you're going to get more back. And man, you can see it click at such a young age, at 7 years old, at 5 years old. And then my 3-year-old see my 5 and 7-year-old do it. And so then he's coming to me, hey, daddy, I want to invest my money. He don't even know what he's talking about. But they understand that, okay, if I put $1 in, I'm getting 3 back. They like that. And so now it's hardly ever a question of, can we go to the store and buy some? It's literally almost immediate. They get money. They come walking into my office during the day, hand it to me and say, I want to invest this. And then sometimes I'll forget about it. And they come checking in about 2-3 weeks later. Hey, how's my money doing? Is it invested? I kind of want some of my money back. And so then I'll give them their returns back. And then I'll say, hey, here's your returns. You gave me 100. Here's 130. Do you want to take this money and just hold on to it and just save it? Because it's not doing anything. You're not doing anything with it. Or do you want to reinvest it with me and make money on that 130 and compound that? And so we start talking about compound interest. And usually they leave the money in my office. And so I have piggy banks and these little plastic bags of money sitting in my office all the time that's invested, because my kids have learned that money just sitting doesn't do anything. It needs to be put to work. And if you're not doing that with your children, I'm not here to give intensive parenting advice, but I can tell you I've seen the light bulb go off in my children. I would encourage you to do it. Now, like anything, there needs to be balance. If we just invest and we don't enjoy life along the way, is that a life worth living? I don't think so. And so we let our kids spend their money. We'll go to Clemson games, they'll buy things, or we'll go to the store and they'll buy things. They'll put that money to use because I want them to see both sides of the coin. But really taking the time to pound into them that if you put money in assets that go up in value, you're going to make money over time. And then one more thing we do with our children outside of inundating them in real estate and teaching them about investing is we make them work to get their money. We are instilling hard work at a very young age. And that work may be in the field of athletics. That work may be in chores around the house. That work may be in schoolwork that needs to get done. We are hard workers in our family. If you don't build that drive in children early and you just give them anything and everything they want without them having to earn it, then they're not going to appreciate the dollar as they get older. And so we feel it's very important to put them to work and then compensate them for that. And you know what's crazy is they enjoy it. They start asking, can they do certain jobs? Can they do this? Hey, Dad, can we go work out? Can we go hit some more baseballs? Can we go shoot some more basketball? Because they start seeing the fruit of their labor. If it's in sports, they start saying, wow, we're better than most of our teammates because we work a lot harder than they do. Or they have money and then they invest and they make a lot more money. Like, man, that work is paying me some money. I'm investing, I'm making more, and then I can go buy these things I want. Or schoolwork. They're making good grades and doing great in school because they're putting in the work on the front end. And so when you teach and put kids in an atmosphere to where they're seeing how assets build wealth and they're seeing how investing in compound interest makes that wealth grow, and they're learning that it all starts at hard work, you start instilling those principles early on that we then help develop over the span of their life, or at least them being under our watch in our household, that then allows that transition of wealth as they age and we age to be smoother, to not cause family problems, to not be lost and spent on dumb things, because they understand the game. And if you don't know the game, you're going to lose. But if you know the game, you can continue winning and winning and winning. The third and final thing that we've done to protect our wealth, protect our children's wealth, is set up an estate plan. So the way I have my estate structured is I have a living trust that sits at the top of it, and it has my will included in it. Underneath our living trust, we have our holding company, which is based in Wyoming. It sits underneath the trust. And then underneath the holding company in Wyoming is where all of our LLCs are. So for some rental properties, our flip business, my acquisitions business, finance cowboy business, any rentals, all of that we have, all of our assets sit underneath those LLCs that are underneath the holding company that are underneath the trust. What that does is mainly keeps us from having to go to probate. So we pass away, that trust gets executed, and it goes immediately to our children. We spell out exactly who gets what, how they vote upon things, whether they're getting individual properties or whether it's just a lump sum of all the assets. They each have 25% and they vote on it. You can structure it however you want, speak with an attorney about what works best for your family. But it's important to have these things in place, especially as you start building wealth and accumulating assets. And the second thing a trust can do, it can help ease the tax burden when your assets and money and wealth is passed on to your children. Look, nobody loves doing this stuff. It's not fun to set up for when you're going to be gone, but if you do it now and you do it right, it's going to make life a lot easier on the legal side when you're no longer here. Plus, you can spell out exactly what you want. That helps alleviate some of the piss and matches with children as they get older. It's because mom and dad specifically say, this is what they want, this is how they're going to do it, and get over it. And you have those conversations with them throughout life. You have meetings. I know Dave Ramsey has 1 or 2 what he calls come to Jesus powwows with his family every year, where he sits down, he talks through the trust, the assets, who's getting what, how it's getting allocated. Don't argue. This is our wealth. This is what we decided to do with it. And then he also, which I think is pretty interesting, you could probably Google or YouTube him talking about this, sets ground rules for how they have to live their life if they want to accumulate the wealth that their parents have built. I don't think our children, and neither did Dave Ramsey when I heard him talk about this, are entitled to what we've built just because they have our last name. If they're going out and they're drug addicts and they're doing wild things and they're in and out of jail and they're not living a life to our particular standard as parents, they don't deserve to get what we've built. They're not going to be able to handle it. And ultimately, if they don't have maturity, if they don't have discipline, then them having that type of windfall of wealth is actually going to speed up their decay. And so putting those guidelines in place of, hey, this is me and your mom have built this wealth, our family, you've all been a part of this. If you guys want to be able to enjoy the fruits of our labor after we're long gone, these are our ground rules, and set those in place, have all the legalities in place. We'll put a link down in the description below of the company I use to set all my stuff up with Prime. You guys can click it if you want to set up your estate planning or your holding company LLCs. They're great to work with, very easy to get done. It'll make the process easier. They'll walk you through it and coach you. So let's do a quick recap. How do we set our family and generations and family tree up for success? Number 1, we have to build wealth. If you don't have wealth, then you can't pass it down. Do it through real estate. It's been working since the beginning of time. Number 2, we have got to teach and coach and give our children financial literacy. If they do not understand how the game works and how to manage assets and how to handle money and what investing and compound interest and all that means, you can't expect them just to pick it up when you're long gone and you've handed them all this money. It's going to lead to a disaster. And then number 3 is protecting yourself legally through estate planning so that once you are gone, everything's spelled out. You keep it out of the court system. You save on taxes when you pass your wealth down, and it makes it a lot more smoother process. Guys, I want to thank you so much for tuning into the Finance Cowboy Show today. Like this video if it helped you. Share it with somebody. Subscribe to the channel. Thank you so much for listening. You guys are my best friends. I'll see you next week.